Okay, so as we're getting started, just take a minute. We've done this in the past, but just jot down at least one glow and one grow that you have want to about Wit and Wisdom so far. Typically, our grows kind of become our glows, so we'll see how that continues. Just a little bit of feedback from me. Back, you can just stick them up. Little rows. Does anyone want to share out one of their glows that they wrote down?
Yes, my glow is that now that we've come this far, we're in module 3, I love how the kids are able to make the connections to the earlier modules. Like we're reading Witch Runner, and they are like verbally connecting. Oh my gosh, that's like Brian and Hatchet and how he did this. And it's like, I'm not guiding that, they're just blurting it out and making these connections, and it's awesome. Awesome to see.
Anybody else?
I'm getting more participation across the board, like with my lower students. I mean, I still have to push them sometimes, but
Either one. I see that. I mean, or you ask them to do a task and
they're
They-
way more independent.
yes. Good. Okay, so if you haven't added those to the board yet, you can go ahead and do that when you have them done. And I will take those and be really intentional. K2 will have training eventually, which is what you guys had last year, but be really intentional about speaking to the power of Wit and Wisdom. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it takes a lot of work. Yes, but don't make that a priority, especially in the lounge and the hallways, because really it's gonna start with them. And if they don't believe in it, they're not gonna do it well, and then that's gonna impact all of us. So just be really intentional about what we are seeing as a result of all of this hard work. It's fine to be real with them, but make sure you're also showing some of those glows, because they will need that. Just think of yourselves. You know, at the beginning of this year, we would have liked to have that as well. Going over our learning norms really quickly. I love the one about our learning styles, and even brings out lots of different conversations and how we handle. And I know in our meetings, Emily was just like, "Well, that's the South in me," and just pointing that out sometimes can be helpful of how you would approach different things. So we all have, when we get into our work time, we'll be making kind of some plans as a grade level, but no, it's okay if you don't do it the same way as other people. Why do we come back to this every meeting, our mission and vision?
Live it, we breathe it. Oh, okay.
Because we have our kids say it every day.
Why do we have our kids say it every day?
Because we want them to believe it.
Yeah.
And if we don't believe it, they're not going to believe it from us.
And they should be driving what we do.
You build
Yeah.
it, they will come. It connects what we're doing every day. I mean, that's why we're doing it.
And this really connects to our purpose for what we're doing in here right now. Like, we're doing it so that we have impact. They will have impact. So just keeping that vision in front of like all this work that we're doing, it's for a purpose. Okay, our goal, school and cluster goal, we're coming up close to when we will be measuring this goal. So, as you've been working hard all year and checking that, we are getting to the end of it. I'm not gonna, you've read it many times, but just keep that in. Laura's not here to give us an update, but Amanda, do we have any scores yet for our EL learners?
Come on, Amanda, come on.
We just turned them in, actually.
Yes, so the window has been closed, we are done with the testing, and hopefully we will have those results soon. And our ILT goal, we are continuing working with our coaching, we are digging into the rubric as well, so that we can also increase proficiency. All right, we are working on, we did not do student work and assessment last week. We kind of continued that thinking and problem solving. So this week, our rubric focus will be student work and assessment. But next week, since there's a number of us gone, Laura will be here with you. And you guys know what you're doing as far as that protocol goes. However, half the time will be spent on that Module 4 study protocol, where you're starting those posters. You'll have more time for that the following week as well. But then the last half of it will be iLearn, okay? We're thinking about what our plans are, what you're gonna plan. So if you have materials you wanna bring, feel free to bring those for that as well. Okay, questions? Really quickly, would someone share out just what they remember? We talked about this last week. Connecting our learning.
Student owning is more like them taking the initiative to control their own learning. So they are the ones taking on the task instead of being pushed by us.
Awesome.
And to add to that, we talked last week about them, like we've already taught them the different options, the different strategies, organizers, and this is when they see the kids picking the ones that are right for them, and like you said, taking that initiative to use what we've taught them without us guiding.
And can we do that if you didn't teach them those strategies or anything? Will they be able to do that if you don't give them the opportunity to choose? So it's all really in those teacher moves. Little things can really impact that a lot. Thank you for sharing those out. Anything else?
I was just gonna add to that, like, the evidence is gonna be what you're hearing the students say. Like, so if you remove the teacher voice, would that ownership be obvious?
So that, as you're understanding it really applies to us as well. I mean, in our journey with Wit and Wisdom, we just had to do it before we could even understand it. We were engaged the whole time. So this is not a bad thing, okay? Like, you have to have the fundamentals before you can go on to this. So don't get discouraged if this is where you're living right now and this is where your class is living right now. That's fine. Just know, as you can find those opportunities, present them. So it's not like, oh man, I have to be there right now. No, it's not. It's a journey. So we kind of have two parts to this. The first part is around our rubric understanding, and then we'll move into looking at that student work and making plans. So I'm going to give you a minute just to kind of look at this, and then you'll share with your tables what we're going to be doing today. So go ahead and share your tables. What are we doing today?
We're looking for trends in student learning. And that's what is it?
Yeah, we're gonna look at our, yeah, look at our data and look for trends.
plan based on student need. That's the
All right,
meaning.
what indicators will we be looking at in the handbooks today? Student work and assessment. Student work and assessment. As far as looking at that, what will we be doing? Since we're analyzing those.
Trying to figure out what needs to change, how we need to shift what we're doing.
We can have student ownership, thinking through it the lens. We'll talk a little bit more about what you will be doing, but really looking at that and then categorizing trends. And then when we get into the data piece, yes, we want to make some connections to the rubric as well, but we'll really be making that plan. And you can do it as a grade level, and then you can do it specifically for your own class. So you should be walking out of here with a plan, moving forward based on student need and data. So to do that, we'll take this first chunk of time and really look at that handbook. Then you will, at your grade level, look at the data, make some statements around, do we see the same trends across the different classes? Or do we have some like outliers? What does it look like? What's the highest need for our grade level? What's, make some statements together, start thinking through a plan, and then you should have about 20 minutes of just on your own, specifically for your students. Questions? So this is just where you will be. So because there are 2 indicators today, we're gonna split it. Okay, so just note which one you will be, whether you'll be assessment or student work, and then I'll tell you what we're gonna do. Okay, so I have, and Josh has, again, I just took the indicators that we're going to be looking at and made a little packet with the handbook pages so it's all together. So student work is at the bottom, assessment is on the second page, and then the pages are on here as well. You are going to, with your group, so if your group, you decide, you know what, we're going to spend some time on our own, looking at it and taking notes, then we're going to come in group, that's fine. But you will be presenting the information in some fashion to the whole group. So if you want to use chart paper and markers, great. If you want to, Josh, what did you say you were going to do?
Act it out.
He wanted to act his out.
You're gonna be
That's
acting it out
fine.
on your
You
own.
wanted to make a song.
Role play.
But you will be sharing
Please do it though, please.
You'll be sharing these things. So which descriptors are evident in our Wit and Wisdom curriculum? Provide specific examples. And then which indicators might we need to make some shifts in Wit and Wisdom or specifically plan because they're not very evident, or we need teacher move, like we need to make sure we're doing this or it's not gonna happen. So for example, I'm not gonna go through all of them, but if I was looking at the student work, I might note in the second bullet, it says, align to the lesson's objective, so student work, assignments are, align to the lesson's objective and include descriptions of how assessment results will inform future instructions. So now I know there's that analyze section in the back, and sometimes in the book, it even says how this will affect their end of module task or their focusing question task. So that one I would put in Wit and Wisdom has that. I need to make sure I communicate that. So I might note that and give that specific example. Got it? So you will have about 15 minutes. You can decide how, if you want to do it individually. Let's have assessment move over. I don't know.
Well, it's just me and Aiden moving, so I guess.
Okay. Assessment over there, student work.
Oh, wait, but then they have to move.
And I'll give you these. And for about 15 minutes.
Student twerk.
You guys are going
Oh, wait, hold on.
Video.
Eric, will you explain what we're going to do?
We are going to get with our groups
Yep.
we are going to be reading through the descriptors of our particular topic,
Thank you.
and then we are going to be presenting it to the group for better understanding.
Awesome. Thank you. Now,
Absolutely.
stepping out, why did I do that? Why did I ask someone?
Checking to see if I was paying attention directly.
Yes. And teacher knowledge of students, I did choose Eric for a purpose.
As it's after 2 o'clock.
That's a board off.
It's after 2. Does anyone need, everyone have one? All right.
What if I said I had no idea?
Then I would have a partner help you out.
We have a one-on-one conversation.
Eric, listen. Josh explains. Now Eric, you want to tell the group?
I'm staying here.
Okay.
No, am I looking first?
Oh, just do it.
Assessments here.
Okay, I was gonna say.
I volunteered and then I backtracked.
You're so silly. Because they were together with a reason. You don't understand how he's like a
No, it just happened. It happens to
Oh, yeah.
I have, when your group is ready, I have chart paper, I have markers at your table. If you want to use those, you may.
You said tracking it out, Josh.
I'm wrapping it up myself.
We are at, or getting to listen.
Oh, see, it's nice and warm.
Yeah, I can get it.
I know, she was awesome at that stuff.
that are evident, and then all just be little and weak, and all be the ones that should, we'll just stick sticky notes of us up there. Okay, just so there's that too, either way.
I'm tapping into Josh's creative thinking right now.
So, as a group, that, I'm not sure, but as a group, or one of you can be the cry team. Anyway, what we need to do is group that as, like, right, words, 1 to 2, which descriptors are strong, accurate. I mean, put it on sticky notes, and then the ones that are maybe.
Kept writing the words and then I just missed them.
That's a good visual.
Especially on the weak one, on the weak one.
And then right on, put it on you, they go,
Yes. Weak
perfect,
one.
okay. And then we'll put it on yours.
Okay, so
So what will you guys say
Okay.
were, yeah, which descriptors are very evident?
Gotcha, okay.
I think
You want the question?
the second one, and then the fourth. Sorry, the align, the one objectives and key descriptors of how accessible school. I know we specifically, like I said, I've had a lot of that recently, because that was with our focus questionnaires that we are doing now. Yeah, so we just need to stand up like a witness, and out, be like,
It's all here. It's all here.
This is approved by
Remember, fourth grade lessons, what are you guys doing this week is provide specific examples, like going back to the text and like. Josh made that connection, when we talked about this, he goes, well, that's exactly what we're saying.
I don't think it's,
What?
I don't think it's necessarily like, that we're looking at it, it's that it's evident in our written wisdom. So it is, it's strong in the written wisdom. And we're not,
So it can be both question sets.
That's what I'm saying, because it's always aligned to the lesson objective, but the assessment will inform future instruction.
that part is
That
where
part,
they overlap.
that
That's
is,
what we need to do better,
Yeah.
so,
So
yeah,
right
just
twice.
put it on, well,
Little
just put,
assessments
tap it
throughout.
on, stick it out.
Yeah.
tap it on.
Or little checks, not necessarily
Okay.
assessments, but like to.
always aligned to the
Is
lesson
considered a check.
objective.
And that gives you
Strong,
feedback,
and then
which was.
Result or-
results will inform future instruction.
That's,
And that
It's
is
just your check.
weaker. It's the nature of how this program is set. It's
I would say, one that I feel is evident in wisdom, like the student work is aligned to the rigor and depth.
yeah.
definitely concur with that.
The build,
With what we did, well,
Right.
yesterday and today with
Sure,
charters.
that we did at the beginning.
I also think the other one that's huge.
That
is
goes
the connection.
example.
So it's not just being connected to different radio experiences, but like especially if we
But
have
if we
that
didn't do that,
feeling
like when we
with
talked about
integration, I know you guys probably
Didn't-
hard to
didn't know
talk
what it was.
about.
So like,
There are
we
millions
had
all
to
the
do
time,
that.
they're connected to
Work,
their daily
work.
lives, everything, there's other things they're reading like all the time, like they're
And then
making
like, how
massive
is it that
connections.
we could,
Yeah, so I would think that one
what
is
do we need to do?
huge, and it's done really well.
Still trying to figure it out.
I think a lot of
So
our
can our way of presenting just be?
grant organizers.
It may just
Lots of
be-
organizers.
It is your choice.
Okay,
Yes, you go.
It is your choice.
I will like something that we can refer back to.
We're looking for the,
The
because
chart is
there's so many
If
ways
we
to
like
interpret
put this
it.
one.
It's not saying,
Yeah.
yeah, just something
Yeah.
so, because I think when we say, okay, this is what we need to work on, well,
There are
then
different
we will work on
answers.
that.
Well, I think it'd be good to say, what do we have already, and what do we?
Put that, student work,
There's, do you want
you
the
have to
chart?
interpret information rather.
And then you, Emily can do the dancing. Oh, yes, and then
And then you can dance.
I can mine, no, I can mine.
Okay.
And it's a lot.
Well, and too, like, you know,
For a song.
Oh,
I can do all these exemplary things.
Can we
It's
just-
just the
We have about 4 minutes left.
That's the indication.
Why is that coming so much?
And what,
We are
so,
still children. I know,
I can
no,
never.
either. And like when you guys say, well, this is a something lesson, I'm like,
Yeah.
Here's a question,
I just want to smile at you. A reveal.
Okay.
Can we just do it?
Does that matter? Like, I know it's just a descriptor.
Just to save for the first one,
Yes,
standard.
right. I should know, I've been here every day.
Can we just do it by descriptor? Would it make sense just to write it down like first bullet,
We understand that.
line, standards, and then just put what?
Sure. Like what
And
we
just
already
said, yeah,
did.
what was, how Whitney has done as a.
Because what standards are we specifically
Like,
applying?
the depth and rigor.
One of us,
Just-
one of
just
my
like
stars
with
is like
paraphrase.
our
Yeah.
kids.
This mine's the state standard. Yeah, mine's the state standard, yeah, just
How are we
paraphrase.
assessing that standard?
And
Do they
they
got
know
it?
it.
They're above it.
Right, if it's right to, or, I mean.
Yeah, that is,
Activities that we're assessing, because in the last overview, I think.
Okay,
Okay,
so-
so it might not be right now, but.
I guess like the overarching learning goals.
Yeah.
There's some that have like 3 or 4 or 5 standards.
Right.
But it's this integrated approach, so it's not
But
artistic.
Remember,
Hey, we're working on this standard, and we're, here's our pathway to get there, and we're on this step here, and it's not that way. It's integrated throughout, which I think is more realistic.
For the most part, pretty smooth.
Yeah.
It's not like forced. They really, for the most part.
Drawing. You're the illustrator. Right, she's the chart.
I know, okay. Okay.
It's like,
You have the right hand, it's
yeah,
going
you
exactly.
could put a ruler under it.
Yeah, always aligned to the line.
Works for
Turn
me.
in time.
Oh, I forgot. And these are the assessments for the student. So peer check, it's just that they kind of go together. Don't matter until the administration. Peer check, turn and toss.
So do we have the organization and analyze?
As we collect the handout.
Yes.
To see if they.
Yeah, for a strength.
All of these things.
Oh,
you
no,
have
the
one.
smut.
The left-handed smut, every
And
assessment
then you guys are
is designed to provide feedback on progress.
Align to what's the objective.
Yep.
okay, so what else?
Interpret
Plan.
I have credential there, learning to experience and observation, scaling situations.
I have organized interpret.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives
I was
us
making sure
feedback,
we
or
had
do you mean
I
like
didn't know who
students
was
do?
writing what.
Yeah.
More the merrier.
Josh is the lead. Josh is the lead.
Do we have some brief ones written down?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure.
I thought we did have a.
All right, try to wrap it up.
It's giving us.
I'll have student work go first. You guys do work.
Use a variety of questions.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna move the,
Are you going to the front?
Those are the.
That's the same.
Oh, I thought you said the same one.
oh my god. All right, as they're presenting, it might be helpful. So you're not, okay, I'll give you a couple minutes after they're done presenting.
Okay.
If you would
Nope.
go to the student work indicator so you can kind of see what they're talking about. Because they're acting.
Oh, boy.
These are both the sheets, right?
No.
This is the.
The real Slim Shady.
And muscle man.
You need a tree.
All right,
Pretty much.
so we have some big, strong student work and some little weak student work here.
So we have the
Don't wanna hurt the
indicators
weak
that we're
guy.
gonna put on the strong
Or weak.
But not strong.
So the one that we said was super strong was connecting what kids are learning to their experiences, their observations, their feelings, things that are going on just in their daily lives, in and out of school. Just because we're seeing kids all the time now, making all sorts of connections between everything. So
Put that baby right there.
that is strong.
Okay, so another strength we had
You
was.
can read it.
Oh, yeah. Another strength we had was drawing conclusions and supporting them through writing. Our kids are constantly writing and writing every single day. But then it's also can be a weakness because like through the TDQs and things like that, understanding how those are leading them to drawing those conclusions, we can do better at that and guiding them without.
And understanding where they're getting to.
Here you go.
Okay, and then another strength is that we are having students through graphic organizers interpreting and organizing the literature rather than just copying it down. They really have to think about it, organize it in different ways. So that's a strength. Oh my goodness.
Feel it.
Almost broke my hand there. And then we also have student work is aligned to the rigor and depth of standards and curriculum content. We had a discussion about that because there are some parts where, like individual standards, it's kind of hard to see where they align. But what did we say, like 4 or 5 different standards are usually in a lesson and they're integrated. So that was also a strength.
Ooh, let's go. They're just growing at such a fast rate right now.
Okay, and then another strength that we had was that they aligned to the lesson's objectives. So because this descriptor goes together, but there's part of it that we need to work on.
Still
We're
growing.
losing all
Spot on
your-
my fork.
So then the other part of it is that
good.
it includes descriptions of how assessment results will inform future instruction. We talked about how 3rd grade, it brought up that they would be using information later on for their focus and question task, but it's something that we have not quite fully stated to the kids unless it's in the book, like directly, I guess if that makes sense. I didn't put it on there.
Whippy, whippy, whippy. Any questions for this group that you have? All right, if you guys could maybe put strengths, sticky notes up here and like put them up here, but put the stronger ones at the top and the weaker ones down the bottom. Josh, you can grow your flowers if you want later. And then while they're taking the next minute or so to finish, if you want to pull out the assessment one and just read over the ones that they're going to be talking about, that way you're ready.
For variety questions, guys, TDQ.
Good problem.
I know.
Okay, so measure student performance in more than 3 ways.
Yeah. About how it also correlates to I know.
I hope they do.
Yeah. I didn't know if you were using that.
What about the times when they have their, what do you call it?
one?
That's good for this one.
Okay. And then, the last one?
Require extended written tests as well. Extended written tests.
Better warm up for your
I was gonna say, you need to stretch, honey.
Yes.
Let's see it. Yeah.
Emily, please say you're gonna rap.
Back bend.
You don't know.
Back bend with a
You
kick
just
over.
don't know what's gonna happen.
Is it gonna be, are you gonna be over here?
Yeah.
Back bend with a kick over.
Yeah, oh.
And
Let's
then-
go.
Hi, my name's Ellie.
Oh.
Okay, and then the last one is,
The description of the assessment.
Yeah.
And we
She
don't-
said it's
but we
good.
don't
Let's
have
go.
clear illustrations of student progress.
But we can talk about that. That's sometimes, but that's the one teacher.
Didn't put on
Because it's not straight. We're gonna just.
All right.
separate,
Generally, except for when we have reveals, things like Christmas.
Yeah, we started putting.
Like today, we had yesterday, we did a reveal, so.
I will come back to you. All right, oh, your group turn, they're gonna present back here.
Please tell me.
Whoa.
I'm gonna like dance across.
Okay, so, we did ours in a poster form, and the ones that you see here are the descriptors that we felt were a strength of wit and wisdom, and then these are specific examples. These are not all of the examples, but there's some that we thought of. So, aligned with the state standards, you can find that right on the, first page, the learning goals, and it lists all of the reading and writing standards.
The second one for providing feedback on progress toward the objective. You have those peer checks, the turn and talks where the kids are turning and talking with one another. The handouts that sometimes ask us to then collect that so we can check the kids' progress to the goal.
And then the different types of questions, we had the TDQs, the focusing question, there were others, but we were running out of time.
The measuring student performance, notice and wonders, turn and talk, 3, 2, 1, Socratic seminar. Also, there were lots of many other ways we assess and wit and wisdom.
Written tasks.
Oh, I thought you were gonna dance. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yes.
I
Oh,
just-
yes, which one, yeah.
Written tasks, FQTs, and the module tasks, and handouts.
And then there was one that we thought was not a strength, so it's not on here. It's the include clear illustrations of student progress towards state standards, which students monitor, understand, and articulate.
So for that, I will be acting as Josh Very good. Thank you, guys. And Emily, can you point, you were dancing back there by
yes.
that. Why were you showing that off?
Another point was talking about how the assessment builds on it, and we looked at the work that we had done with end of module tasks, shows that building. Optical illusion, yeah. Okay, never close your eyes from here.
All right, thank you. If you want to just hang that, I have to take all the posters down in a little bit, so just hang it back there, that's fine. All right, hey guys, that took a little bit longer than I anticipated, but it was definitely worth it.
Worth the wait.
Really quickly, did you guys make any connections from what they presented with assessment to what you guys talked about in student work? What were some of those connections? Well, like, the first was aligned to the rigor and depth of standard and curriculum content for the student work. The assessment is aligned with the depth and rigor, so it's making sure that the assessments and the student work are all where it needs to be. Thank you. So while you're finishing up, I asked them to look through and see, as you guys were presenting, which ones connected with theirs of student work. There were a lot of connections, right? Because as you are giving them these tasks in student
And like you guys talked about, one of the big things that we're not doing yet is how are students tracking their progress towards this? So that's just something to think about, like how can we strengthen that a little bit? It's not impossible at all, but we just haven't gotten there yet. So just be thinking about that. With that in mind, we just did that. We are going to then look at some of the student work that you had them do, and you are going to think about how that should impact future instruction. So Josh and I are going to model a little bit, but here are some things to think about as we're going to plan. Revisiting upcoming skills and analyze sections, so like just knowing what's coming up is going to help you know how you should also adjust your plan. Did the students master what they needed to on this focusing question task? Why or why not? Was there something, what will we need to do to support them as we look at the upcoming either focusing question task or end of module task? Like, is there a specific skill that we could really hit? So I was gonna pull it all up on our firm. It takes a while and sometimes it doesn't work for me. So I screenshotted some data. So I believe it's from one of our 4th grade classrooms. And so in Affirm, and I can show you how to get here during work time, you can pull this report. And the criterion listed on the bottom are the different points that you said yes or no to when you were scoring last week, okay? So as I look at this, I'm noticing, oh my word, what was 14? Because that was the lowest one. So obviously I want to look and see what that is. I looked at it and it said, using the writing checklist and peer review feedback to revise and edit the essay. Oh, that makes sense. I'm not going to worry about 14 because I didn't even score 14 and that's why it's the lowest. So that would not make sense for me to even worry about. So I'm going to move on. Next I'm going to look at, okay, I see this is a line for the 50th percentile. So I see some above it. I see 5 and 6 are the lower ones, right? So I'm going to look at, and I can show you how to do this in Affirm, but there's a button up there that says View Checklist, and then I just found 5 and 6. So it says develops each supporting paragraph to include the following: context, topic sentence, evidence and elaboration, and conclusion. What you guys have that I don't have is a lot more knowledge about their student work because you graded it. So you need to take that into consideration. What was I seeing when I said no? What were they lacking? Was it one of these specifically? Was there a trend there? And the conclusion paragraph. So that seems to be a weaker point. So as a teacher, I'm thinking, is there a time upcoming that we're going to be talking about concluding paragraphs? And will that be enough for the whole class? Or is it something where I do tomorrow or next week and I pull up an exemplar of someone who did do it and we talk through, what did you notice that's different from this one than from yours? And we give ourselves some time to have a little whole group lesson on concluding paragraphs. So you're gonna make some data statements about your data, talk about it as a grade level, what you're noticing. Is there some shifts that we need to make before the end of module task? And just kind of get some ideas from each other. And then you'll have time to go right into just individual planning once you have an idea. So Josh, did you want to share anything about that?
No, it's just like thinking ahead to where this focusing question task is going, or focusing question arc 4. I know that they are going to be using this same essay format again. And so there is going to be a time to revisit that before they do their next essay. So knowing that, okay, supporting paragraph structure was a low point and conclusion. As we get to that, at the end of focusing question arc 4, I know those are my 2 areas that I'm really going to probably add in some instruction with when we get to actually writing the essays. I'm not going to worry so much about introduction and some of those other pieces. Those are going to be the 2 focuses as we start to move into writing that next essay.
Okay. The other way to think, okay, so whole group, I'm gonna do that when it comes up. Maybe I need to hit something that's a little bit more. So I just pulled up number 9, elaborates upon evidence by explaining or analyzing it. Elaboration, we're doing it a lot, right? And it might even be just a simple thing where you have them turn and talk and then ask, how do you know? what does that mean? So what, you know? And having them elaborate as they talk might help them in their writing. But you can make a specific plan for that. The other part of Affirm, so that checklist is at the top, then you can scroll down to see it by student. So if you see one that most students have, but there's a few students that don't, and you get into that part of it and you would rather focus on that, you can look at this to see, okay, in criterion, I'm gonna go on to 9. You know, these students would be ones that I could use as exemplars, and these students I might pull for a small group. So use that as kind of a guide for how you might group students. So the rest of this time will be for you. Work with your team, work individually, just make a plan as far as looking at their data, making some trends, like looking at trends and seeing what adjustments you need to make.
Can we print off those charts?
Okay, I shouldn't say no. I could not find a way to print it off. Because when I tried to print, it just printed like, it didn't even print the whole thing. So it was like in a window or something weird. You can try. I don't know, I didn't try copying it and pasting it and then printing. I didn't try that, so that might be a way. I'm not gonna get into it right now, but I will talk about it after if you want, as far as using Affirm in the future versus Elluminate. We can have that discussion later. But I wanted to give you some time right now to just look at the data. Oh, sorry, you can move back to your grade levels. Your grade levels.
Ellen, can you show me how to?
Back to your way into the.
Yes, I recognize.
Really good
Oh,
coat.
that looks like, oh wait.
I don't know whose coat that was, it was really good.
So.
I don't know whose coat that was, but it tasted really good. Josh ignores me too. I make every comment on, I make every comment under the sun, and Josh always is ignored, he's always left out. Forgot wrote it.
Sorry.
That laptop was really good over there.
Your what?
Yep.
What?
Wait, first of all, I go here. Oh. And then, Jamie still doesn't.
Oh, so then we probably don't. I didn't know if we had a class, like if Skyward, if it connected like it does with like Spring.
So, Jamie and admin was up to see, okay, I keep it sometimes so hard for me to find stuff like the good areas. Yeah. There, okay.
Is that in grade 9?
See if we can.
I'll just look at it to see.
I can do that.
Where is it?
Oh, this is kid, her.
Okay, are you guys finding the reports?
Yeah, I've looked at my report.
Why can't I?
There's no way to.
Did you do the same thing?
I mean, I'm here.
I had the same problem. You have to go into reports.
Right.
I had the same problem going to grade 4. Jody had to get yours. And then, no, it won't let you click. You have to go back up here and click on assessment. And then put it back in. Yeah. I know, but yeah. Assessment, and then it. Yeah. I was like, it's not working. I'm
Yep,
clicking.
thank you.
The supporting paragraph needs to be a topic sentence. We were missing our topic sentences in like about half.
Yeah.
We know that one. Topic sentence and conclusions.
Are we talking 5 and 6? Yep. Those were 2 of my lowest.
And then 9 was elaboration.
9 was
Mine
low.
is better than last time, but it's still there, so I don't know.
What about 10? What was 10?
A variety of sentence patterns, simple, compound, and complex.
No?
That's where mine arrived.
I would say those are my 4 that are below 50%. 5, 6, 9, 10. Eric, did you find your report?
Yeah, when I had them all open, those 2 were grayed out, so.
Yes, no?
No, sorry.
Are they all sorted?
I have one that's right here that's not. I just saw it. It just-
So once you put out what you will finish up.
Put the, oh, okay. She do the same thing. She did. That's gonna go as a 0, basically. She didn't put it in part A, part 1. Put it in 2. That's the bad thing. We'll have like skewed, probably skewed data.
Can you put it in like, you know, like, look at it in part B and just.
Anytime I did the Excel document was. It's hard to read. Oh, but I didn't write it Not long. Like, November.
Because I'm looking right here. Oh, so it doesn't even show the rubric. You haven't entered it in 1, does it not show the rubric? And I'm not flipping back and forth.
Yeah, because this was kind of, when you talk about people's different learning styles, I can't go back as far as I need to type it. I read this in front of me and then I have it right here. I need to write it. I need to see it. I need to be able to read it.
Oh, wait, okay.
If you can't do that.
Is it an actual writing planner though?
That's not it.
Well, so I got rid of the word that it said on the side so you can write
I
it.
have 4.
But is that like?
Anyhow, I'm gonna enter it.
Or is that like?
You did?
You know what I'm saying?
How did you do that?
How did?
That's like.
So I scaled my class.
Yeah, but you're only supposed to do like the introduction.
But then you did the ESC and then you go back to,
I go to
I have it,
classes,
I haven't
and then
seen it yet.
I'm gonna, I don't know,
They
what it was, kindergarten, yeah, this would be like.
They go from night, they use it in night.
And then these are my kids,
That's
and
it.
I'll click on their report,
No, I'm now looking.
and then I'm like, oh, they're not here. Prior to
I gotta click finish storing now.
Here.
But my question is,
It says email source, but.
how do they, how do they use that?
Get that stupid coming up like that.
When we looked for Christie's in the course,
Did you look into how to shield passes?
support it, right? Yes, yeah. And they're gonna find.
You see that?
It's showing them as on school.
Okay, so I can't even,
They don't. Yeah. So that's what I did.
That means I need to print them out, Google Docs, all the ones that I want to use. But also I don't think.
See, I have
Put it in
kids, I
part
just
two.
said, everyone, can you just do this for me?
You
So
have
they
to
printed
do
me a
that.
copy, and then I realized.
that's, yeah, that's,
So these are theirs, these are mine.
Like, I don't get how
I wrote on theirs as I created them. But I don't wanna keep them here.
like, the way they have it set up, like, I'm actually working right now.
no, I'm saying,
I'm like, okay.
Like, I have.
it's not friendly. And I don't think it's not getting out.
So this is one they're gonna use for their two points.
So it comes down to.
So, like, the questions are helpful, like, why did the character do a great job with that?
So maybe they answer the question.
But see, now,
Yeah.
so I can't even open it.
And so I use, they
Yeah, this is the step I used it, what I did. I know, that's what I was just thinking. Am I gonna have time to use this? They should know their writing. So many lines. Yes. Okay, so thank you, that's right.
We didn't need to see somebody.
Thank you. I think I need to see somebody, so maybe we'll do this tomorrow.
I don't know.
They were not.
I just really struggle with it.
I don't wanna waste your time.
So did you see the text to speech?
Now that you closed it, they can see it.
Ellen,
Yeah.
You just have to put it in the just like we did the report, you can choose whether the report is done or showing it.
And then we do.
But on this assignment, they'll see this, and they'll see
well,
a.
I'm trying to do this to
Well, I'm
catch
just saying, like instead of the round donut.
like you would have, but I've got,
But I looked through and graded.
He wasn't.
Just so we can kind of say, okay,
As
so
well
what
as
does
like.
this show us? What is this?
so there's a
Escape
couple of
is
things
the
I
acronym
can't
that's
open.
We learned from it, I said,
But then
remember, I've
this
never
person
seen
goes
this
past
before,
their
so
first
I'm
time
looking at it, so let's see the ticket.
So,
She
like,
was pretty excited, she was like, oh, the Maple.
Where's
I
the
thought it was
APE
used
chart?
for-
the APE, and are we only gonna do it like one
One
time?
or two.
It's like action.
10 and 13.
I tried to,
I might have,
of course,
I guess I have one of them in.
Yeah, I like that idea, but just to show that, hey, it's a class, this is how we did it. Which one?
it's just that.
Action problem.
So then, if they're only doing it,
Okay,
yeah,
I would-
they're not writing it.
I did that,
Narrative.
yes, did that,
They would just
then I
write
got these.
a narrative, but we wouldn't be counting them. Yeah, it's just ESC, that's their planner. Their planner is ESC.
So then is the next one going to focus on 18?
Oh my gosh.
Is that, what's the next one?
Turn them on for. Go to your
What are
little.
reports and see if there's anything there? So 32. 32 is the whole thing, escape too.
So maybe that's why this says a letter, so they don't have to.
I don't know what it reads to them.
Yeah.
But the issue is,
That's why there's only directions, and we can't reach the
sorry, I'm really trying to wrap my head around this. The issue is again, like the planner isn't really a planner.
Right.
Well, when
Like
they do it
it-
on their front.
I explained it to my kids, I
You
don't
have
think
to
it's
take the question.
that helps them
That's an
Or
angry
you
chart.
plan their, yeah. That's
Or
what I,
you having them
because when I
put
looked
on
at like
paper.
this is
So
not
then,
this
this
is.
come up with.
We could take that chart and take out
Right.
the
Okay.
writing
So
on the
versus
right
what
hand
we
side and use that and say, remember, this is a pretty, this is what every.
This is the
Okay, now we're back to this.
This is a.
This is where I was at with this.
No, here's,
Putting it off for all of them. Except for, I have a couple that actually don't.
Choose one figure in the illustration and write a letter from the point of view of that person to someone in the character's one.
So they have already done it.
No, I did not get that.
They've looked at a person and that's what they've started, so that was.
Wait, the page looks tight.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
and
what
then
it
it says,
so I
in
have
the
to-
letter, identify the reason why
Oh, and I
she
did
did
that.
and describe the moment he or she first saw the statue.
I wonder if I could put that
And then
beneath thing to
establish
see if
the
it'll
situation,
refresh.
the place,
It's weird to see if
narrator
these
and or characters, use details about.
Click finish scrolling and then it will take you to, you have to go to start.
Yes.
Oh, good.
It is.
Okay, then I'll do everybody.
Did you do that? Okay.
Click on the three dots and
Oh,
say
that's
export on it.
There's the download one.
So like,
would be the introduction. That's what I was trying to tell you. That's what I was trying to tell you.
They're writing
Okay.
that
Yeah, you
experience
either
from,
download it
so
or-
they're writing it in letter form because we've been talking about it.
So they're not really, so they're more describing like what it was like coming over, and they're not, they saw the statue, they're not actually going through what problems were. I mean, I guess kind of are, but.
So there is that initial,
You
that
just found it,
initial.
remember on this page,
So,
yes, it shows how they use different servers.
And then when I went back,
It shows.
but I feel like it's gonna disconnect just the kids. I don't know why I can't even force it, but I just. So that we look at those.
So yes and all are, I mean, try that. But
we did it in family, but I read like all of these before sports.
the end of module four, they're given a situation and they have to look at and take to the student through the eyes of the character. So we're gonna put on the ones that are say, actually, but look at like, you pretend our brain is there, what is it that you're seeing when you smell, like just that.
So just an FYI, there's a text to speech.
Yeah, but,
So,
but see, I don't wanna just, yeah, you actually, so go back up to all grade.
Oh, look at that, you
Flip that button.
Why is that?
Finish class.
Did you ever watch, I just was thinking about the show first.
See, yes, but that's all I can tell them, but that's all I know how to teach.
Of course.
The only, the only thing I liked about Lucy Hawkins though, is I could teach that and get away with it, cause like, I don't know, I told you so much to tell them like, this will be an essay about, blah, blah, blah.
FYI, there's a text to speech.
Maybe it's this.
For all of, your kids, if you
So I tried doing that way.
So I put
Not comprehensive.
I know, that
our
is such a.
shared.
Oh, like
district.
Hopkins. But, I was
That
happy.
has-
To go home.
Yeah, like Houston does
Cause I
that.
never know what else to write besides that.
I don't believe so.
I highlighted it.
And then it gives you his,
So the other day, last week, I was getting other people's checklists.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd almost see if they can print theirs, and I just read it.
I don't know what it is. I just-
Correct.
So I don't know what it does, well,
I'm
find
going
out.
to test, I will test it and I will let you know.
Okay. Even if it just reads the directions, at least but it's.
Yeah, I'm gonna test it on one of my.
She might.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you have about 15 more minutes. If you have not talked as a grade level, I know some of you have. I know some of you have been working on trying to get your reports, but if you haven't been able to look for trends in your own data yet, just listen to some of the others of what they're coming up with, and then we'll go into some individual time, again, and I will come around as needed. So,
Okay, well, I mean, we kind of already talked trends across the grade level. I mean, we looked at 5 and 6, right?
For me, it's 4 and 5, but yes,
Okay.
it's formatting, basically, no matter which one.
Yeah, and so it's an actual structural thing, which is good,
But
because that will,
shouldn't your report
I
already
mean,
been
that will keep
submitted?
coming around, right?
I thought it was, and then it
At
just
the end
was
of
gone.
question art 4, we're gonna be writing another
Then I
essay.
can go through and then.
At the end of the module, we're gonna be writing another essay, so there'll be chances there as we are going through those lessons to.
Well, I think, then it says that none of these are scored, but they're also put some exemplars, like I have what they were all done in all the parts up on the screen, so they can add, and then the kids, and then they have their doc pulled up, and then they look at their part and see if there's topic, sentence, now, ratio topics. And so they can. Yeah, and then right in that Google Doc, they can fix it right then. They don't have.
It should be intentional by saying, this is revision. So in the checklist, when it says you can revise, this is exactly what you should be doing.
So you're gonna do that with this essay before they write the next one?
Yeah, no, it's this one now, not this paragraph, you and them about you, it's this paragraph, the next. This was.
Is it just a paragraph that they're writing, or are they writing a whole paragraph?
It's a paragraph. I was gonna ask you guys, I didn't get that far. Is it one reason or two?
Two reasons.
It's the two pieces of information that are supposed to help him find his parents. The two pieces of knowledge that'll help him,
Yes.
in their opinion.
So it's, so
I
they're
didn't have a
only
chance
gonna
to-
end up writing one
The
paragraph.
paragraph, but the paragraph has to have the opinion, two reasons, the evidence, the elaboration, and the.
A long.
So like a sentence
But it's a
of
letter.
each.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah, no.
a normal, right?
For number 9, how did you guys look? I'm asking because since we last spoke, we had,
Mine's all food.
we had said way back when, we said that elaboration and domain-specific words were our focus. I had had this document open on my computer since, I can't tell you what question this was. And we said we would look at elaboration. So I was just curious as to, is your scores up? By the whole class, are you noticing better?
Overall.
Yeah, I made it.
And are you above 50%, right?
I understood what elaboration was, and they understood what elaboration was.
For 9, I'm not above 50%.
Okay.
I'm right at 50.
I would
But
say,
was lower than that.
Oh, I was low, I've grown, yes. I don't know because mine is just,
And I can get all their stuff.
get really pissed off. It is food art. I'm getting really pissed off in the front.
We're at 62%, which is way better. But the funny thing is, I notice my kids are elaborating, but they're not including focusing.
Oh, focusing statement?
Like, you're saying a lot about what you're saying.
You're not letting them know.
That's my main point that I'm gonna
So
show.
up there, they have, I use
Yes,
writing for
yes,
this
yes.
organization.
Which in this case
No,
was
it's
that
not.
she was proud or
And
she
mine
was
put it in
great.
the intro,
But
almost
your
everybody
is
put
this.
intro, and then they didn't put
And
it
then
like.
it's
one.
Yeah,
And
and
then
they
it's
just into that.
So this whole paragraph is supposed to be very,
Oh,
why
yeah.
she felt
Are
proud.
those
She
questions-
didn't say she felt proud, we just jumped into her
I've
action.
actually done fairly
With
good.
lots of evidence in
Why
mind.
restrictors integrate dementia?
I was just curious, and I wanted to close that document, but I wanted to talk to you guys, because I knew that was our focus once upon a time.
Well, it's like, I was so like.
So she says-
Well, my, giving me like, I'm like, so, and then I did, and then I forgot to tell like 70, you know, mine.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
second years now is.
So much talking about.
I want to
Figure
give
it
them
out.
a puzzle, and I want them to put the puzzle together, but I would pull some pieces. You know the little kid puzzles that have the really big chunky pieces?
Really, 6
I
plus
just
pieces.
wanna, me too, I wanna give them one of those, but I wanna keep one out and not tell them, and then be like, okay, did you put the puzzle together? See, I want them to see the physical whole that is missing. And then reflect that to their writing.
I gave them points
I know that sounds weird, but it's how we grade.
When everything goes together, you gotta have one
And
repeat.
without that piece, we don't get the full picture. It's
Like they might have said like this is the
Like
first
that.
grade, really, that's not like what they studied. The immigration. So it's like.
And so you guys said this week, yeah, if you're struggling with
There's
it,
a hole in your understanding.
The whole structure, you're saying. The whole structure is what you're saying, right, Amanda?
Yeah, like,
Is
do
that-
you know the structure?
Right, and I put it up there so we're able to copy it. But, can we do it on our own? That's my thing. Not for putting up, like, sentence one is topic. Sentence 2, 3, 4 are elaborations, detail. Sentence 5, you know, like, could you do it without me?
And
Spoon.
I tell the kids, you can put the sentences if you want to, because they know what the context at the beginning. The
Right.
focusing statement was great, we used the painted,
Well, so did I, cause I had that, and then we were struggling with that, so then I literally put it up. Paragraph 1, sentence 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the parts. Paragraph 2, sentence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paragraph 3, sentence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is exactly what it is,
At least that's what I would.
you know, and then for the conclusion. That's exactly how I did, because we were struggling with how we were reading, we knew how to read it, but we didn't know what part went in order.
and maybe that's part of that shift to student ownership. Hey, we put it in there.
Oh, it's about to be big time.
This time, I'm gonna step away for this next little essay, and I'm gonna step away, and you tell me the parts.
Which, it's gonna be our performance, practice performance test that we're gonna do. We're gonna have to do it, and it's gonna be, yeah, you're gonna have to struggle on your own to figure this out.
Because we say it has to be, that does not look like in our, and the challenging, because they say challenging and engaging.
But they almost need to be okay, so in your,
So they don't ever go back
here's
to their.
the plan to write in your next paragraph. So then you might.
It's like their formula.
Yeah, it's the formula, but they need that internal. And the printed essay doesn't go into that, like, it just gets blocks of.
Block, yeah. So that's why I do each sentence.
So it's always set up as like the one,
But
the one is
I feel like
like.
I write it up there all the freaking time. You've seen it up there. It's like, oh, take it away, waste my time.
This is the check for understanding. Can you make me an April, can you make me even a basic that says
The task actually.
Good data reading.
Struggle with, how do I say that?
You're gonna have your administration, coordinator, that's just interview, that's what I can choose
Yep.
one figure and write a letter from 0 to 92. In the letter, identify the reasons why.
Because there's a huge difference between knowing what's supposed to be there, but then making sure my writing.
You might even tell, like, really communicate.
Maybe that's the next step. And the problem is, quick check in the middle.
Sometimes it's the hook, sometimes it's the context.
Oh, I'm with you. That's why I keep it consistent. I always call it, I don't call it the context, I always call it the hook. If it's the very first one, right?
Yeah.
I'm always
Yeah.
calling it the hook.
And then is it the topic sentence, or is it the thesis, or is it the focus statement?
Yeah. Focus statement is to me, I interpret it in the introduction,
Right.
which is the thesis.
Yeah.
It depends on the writing. But then the topic sentence is always the first sentence of paragraph 2 and 3.
Okay, so thesis and focus starting, that's the same.
Then you let them.
That would be
do
the
it.
second sentence, should be the second sentence in your
And then
intro.
it's the reasons, if it's, opinion, or it's the two.
Does it look the same as this one?
Points.
What are some
If
similarities?
it's
What are
information.
some differences?
But then
Everyone
there's
Like, and then like,
the context.
do you think we need to make changes to yours based
Tell
on
us a
what you're
little bit
seeing
about
here?
what's going on.
And maybe,
Oh, in the, for the opinion?
The background of it, yeah, the
For
little
the-
bit of the background, like,
Instead of the hook, they want the background.
yes, because that's what they want to get done. Yeah, and see,
Right.
and I like to score down for that. Maybe I shouldn't have been so harsh, but
I don't think so.
if they
It's
just
stupid.
explain historical events that were related to the American Revolution, like if you just said your dad
they're gonna,
war, and
Like
like
that, I like.
like I was a little bit harsh, because I'm like, be specific, be, like, give me detail, but they didn't explain that it was.
I don't think they're gonna.
Many roses is spelling, but like that letter.
It connects back to when you're supposed to have your
Remember, you gotta
background as
remember,
Dr.
like Candy said, they've gotta write 5 lines.
What's the space, or the
That
Dr.
is
Roper
like-
from
that's-
Swin.
Before they'll even look at
From
it.
the good book, and I
Correct.
do it.
You've gotta get them at least 5 lines, if we could
They
straight
won't
like.
act it out,
5 lines,
I acted
and
it out.
are we all
Kids-
writing
kids
5
were
lines? I
supposed to
mean,
answer
literally
questions
everybody
from the
is in their
perspective of
classes.
Dr. Rover.
With our guidance.
To an extent.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying, I'm curious to see, once we do our performance
Oh, yeah, yeah,
tests,
yeah.
where do we stand?
I'd say our conclusions.
Yeah.
No, I did my lines, but I think my other three paragraphs.
One of my students came up with
Yeah,
a.
but
Because
like
we
the
know
total
that there's
thing
gotta be
is-
5 sentences.
5 sentences total.
Yep.
Ask
Now,
the kids to bring
I
it
hear
to
the
us.
reason why you're in
Yeah.
the
They won't even look at it.
Basically, yeah.
the more the merrier, as I say.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. Our grade
Right.
is.
I learned people won't even look at it if it's not 5 sentences. What if they don't put any punctuation in?
Then you have to.
And that's- They don't even look at it?
I think it's 5 lines.
It's 5 lines, is what she said.
Okay, so,
What did you
this is
say?
their.
If they don't put any.
I said, what if they don't put any punctuation in?
It's 5 lines.
5 lines then.
Second grade, module 3, they have to write.
That doesn't seem like that much.
So it does.
It connects.
Okay,
It makes sense.
One,
Five
one.
typed
You
lines.
realize,
They're gonna, what do they call it?
probably most of them when people get paid.
Yeah.
That, two, looks like a 3, yep.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
What? No, actually, what I read one year,
Or
like
less than
12
one.
years ago,
No,
they spent about 20 minutes per
Right, but that's already good.
3 minute scale.
Yeah. And
We
so-
spent like 5 hours on
And do that
lines.
plan that you
It's like,
showed us.
While they're drinking beer.
Yeah.
Cause weren't they doing them at home?
I
Yes.
think so.
We've been hiring
Yeah.
people.
They told us we could sign up.
I know,
You can
for
apply
like, for like $10 an hour or something.
And then we could pick the hours.
All right, I wanna make sure you have time to do the reflection piece and get out on time, so I'm gonna kinda cut you off a little bit. I know, probably not quite done, but did you guys, were you able to get a plan? You guys did? Okay, so, just really quickly, what were some of the key trends at your grade level, that you were able to identify, or at your class level?
Conclusions were weaker and connecting, collaboration to the evidence was weaker.
Okay.
And you put connecting the evidence and elaboration to the prompt.
And is that what you decided to work on, or are you working on something else?
I think we're kinda, yeah, and we're working on how is that gonna connect to the next posting question task, because the next one is way different than what we just did, so, and what we've been doing, so kind of how do we get into the next focusing question task and use those skills to kind of connect it to what we've been doing?
Okay.
So, it'll be interesting.
Alright.
So 4th grade is, inconsistently following the format. So for each paragraph, like the introduction paragraph should have the context and then the focus statement, and then it needs to have the 2 points, and the kids don't always have all those pieces. And then in the supporting paragraph, again, you have the specific, focusing statement, your evidence, then support that with your elaboration, and it's not consistently there for all kids, whether it's.
They're getting more pieces and parts
Mhm.
of
Right.
it than before, but to put it all together in the right place.
It's still a struggle.
Yeah. So the pieces are appearing, yay,
Yay.
but not always there. Jody had said she was gonna put up an exemplar of a piece where everything is in the paragraph, and then have the kids look at it and say, identify each of the parts, and then look at their own, and identify which parts are there, which parts are missing, and then immediately revise it. And then, of course, making sure, I keep saying this, making sure, 3rd grade, you help us, make sure you say, this is what revision looks like. So when it says revise your work, this is what it looks like. It's not just, it's the checklist, it's
No.
like, yep, I did it, yep, I did it, yep, I did it. But yeah, actually saying, hey, we're going through the motions, this is revision.
Awesome. I would also love to find an anchor chart and then have them make it too, like I could have one up there, because the painted essay is not detailed enough. It's blocks of color, but I want an anchor chart that says, okay, in the intro, you have to have like the context, and then you have to have the thesis, and then you have to have, you know, so that they have to put that too, and then they can pull it out and say, oh, I need these 5 things in my intro. And I don't.
I would say
Make
like
one.
the
I have
kids
some,
need to make
next
some.
semester, you can have this next time, actually, write it on a sticky note, cause, I will help you find that for Megan.
Yeah, awesome.
Really quickly, we're gonna reflect, and then we'll talk about your bring back. Think and then turn and talk. How does your understanding, so think back to what you talked about with student work, or what was presented about student work. And how does that indicator impact your planning? And then when you have something written, turn and talk.
Josh.
Wow.
You're bothering us.
Stop.
Sorry, I was being
Already
low-key.
struggling
I
enough.
was being low-key for a second.
Tells you what.
Well,
And tells you what to fill
Prior
in.
knowledge, so that kids
What we're
like
going to.
building prior knowledge, so
And yeah, if they've been given it to them. Yeah.
organize their moral.
Being able to use
I
the
mean,
correct one.
and I can see,
But-
yeah.
I can see in my.
Interpreting.
Interpreting, so it's hard to interpret something if you don't really know
And I know who I'm gonna have to
the background
Right.
behind
get
it.
it to, and say,
Um,
when you need it.
yeah, I, so like with.
That's what I was saying.
We're all different.
As they're slightly more.
Because then they can figure out which one do I need to use. Okay, there it is. All right, good. I got my plot mountain, whatever.
Like in big descriptions of how like that student
My
work or
first
that
job was
assessment is
a
going to.
performance task is to
inform.
decide.
Like that goes into our planning,
Is it
right?
opinion, is it?
Using that.
Because otherwise, if you don't
that
identify it.
form of
This is
teaching
super
structure,
important.
we have to use the student.
Okay, you know what?
That's why we got 2 weeks each.
It may be a part of this next lesson tomorrow, before we start.
How should it have?
You know, we're going
Gotta
to
use
I
it to
like
draw
that
what
because
comes
then
back.
they pull
And
it
that's
out,
part of
the same thing you've been using for
After
Winnie
this.
Wisdom, but let's apply it to this performance task.
Yeah.
Instead of giving them something
have
brand new
integrity
and
of the code,
doesn't
but
fit.
you also see what
Because
is
really,
better than-
If you think about it, the plan for what we're about to do for the opinion
I'm gonna pause.
is that one paragraph. It's like the plan, essentially, quote unquote. And then once you write it, you are obviously giving all these details. But it's getting those thoughts, ideas done, boom, got it, plan, okay, now I'm
You're gonna
all
pull them
out
and
of
make
it.
sure they understand it, and then they can do it.
And so like giving liberty to like.
What?
Collaboration.
Evidence and elaboration.
So the evidence is how do you?
I just, you know,
I mean, like,
call
you
it,
get it from
what do I
the text.
call it, evidence slash details, I think I said. Because I used the common language.
And you know what, it's funny you said that, because I just wrote this
Pull
down
kids
for
to the
myself.
carpet that are struggling,
Because every
and while the
time
other students
every
are
time
working or.
Ellen says it in a different way, I write it down, and it sounds weird, but I wanna be able to share all the different ways it comes to. When it comes to elaboration, you ask, what does that mean?
And being okay to
How do
make
you know?
adjustments.
So what?
All right,
Why
did
is it-
anybody wanna
I
share
wouldn't
out what
say all this.
you or your partner talked about very quickly?
Pull it out of it.
Okay, sorry about that.
Anyone wanna share out what you heard or what you said?
Go ahead, Christine.
So we're gonna, they're going to make, like all the organizers for the different types of writing, and then the kids have to be able to, the students have to be able to pull out which one they need to use for what type of writing it is. Did I say that right?
And what's coming up that you could actually do that with?
I learned.
Yeah, so when you're thinking about next week, your plan for I Learned, that might be a part of it, where you're putting up those different strategies up somewhere. Which one of these would work with this performance task? And making them choose which organizer. Great, great, guys. Okay, did we meet our objectives for today?
Yes.
Yes, yay, we looked at those, we had some great presentations from you guys and reflected around student work. Okay, I did not click that right. Follow up, this is what Jody, if you need something, okay, so I'll check in with your plan or ways to support you, but if you think of something right now and have something, you can email me or leave it on a sticky note. Otherwise, I'll just kind of check in with what you need as far as support goes. But if you already know it, write it or email me. Next week I will not be here, but bring your Module 4 materials and anything you want as far as planning for I Learn, like the 20 days plan. Go back to that. And then just be ready, if you have implemented something based on today's planning, be ready to share that out so that you can share some successes with the group. Questions? Comments? Great job, guys. It was a fun, I enjoyed watching your guys' presentations today.